The ground reference maneuvers in this program are designed to help develop your ability to compensate for wind drift and control the airplane while your attention is diverted outside. Many of the skills you'll learn in these maneuvers can be applied to your routine flying and improve your feel for the airplane. The first step in executing any ground reference maneuver is to determine from which direction the wind is blowing. This can be done by noting the position of the wind sock at the departure airport, the runway in use, or the direction the wind is blowing trees and dust. Another method you can use is to fly a 360-degree constant airspeed, constant bank turn. The difference between your starting and ending points gives you the general idea of the wind direction. Let's begin with a look at rectangular courses. The procedures you use to fly a traffic pattern are very similar to those you'll use to fly a rectangular course. The exception is that you'll fly at a constant altitude between 600 and 1,000 feet AGL. As the name implies, you'll be flying a rectangle around reference lines on the ground. The objective is to maintain an equal distance from the boundary throughout the maneuver. This distance should be about 1/4 to 1/2 mile. Ideally, one leg of the pattern should be directly downwind. This allows you to fly one segment with the wind, another directly into the wind, and two legs with a crosswind. The preferred entry to the rectangular course is on the downwind leg in straight and level flight. At this point, the ground speed is higher than on any other leg in the pattern, and little or no crab angle is needed. When you're opposite the corner of the field, start the turn to crosswind. Since the ground speed is high, the initial bank angle is steep. But to maintain a constant distance from the field, the bank is gradually reduced as your ground speed slows during the turn. The turn to the crosswind leg is completed so that a crab angle is established into the wind. Maintain a crab angle that will allow you to fly a straight line at an equal distance from the field. The turn to upwind is begun when you're opposite the end of the field. During the turn, your ground speed slows as you head into the wind. Therefore, the angle of bank gradually decreases. This leg is flown directly into the wind, so no crab angle is required and your ground speed is slow. During the turn to the next leg, your ground speed gradually increases. This means the angle of bank must increase to maintain a constant distance from the field. On this crosswind segment, the wind tends to drift the airplane toward the field. Therefore, the turn is completed so that a crab angle is established into the wind. Maintain this crab angle until you reach the end of the crosswind leg. As you turn downwind, your ground speed increases. This means the bank angle needs to increase gradually throughout the turn to maintain a constant distance. Your ability to compensate for the wind during a turn is an important element of flying a rectangular course properly. S-turns are a series of alternating left and right 180-degree turns across a reference line on the ground. During each turn, a constant radius is maintained by varying the angle of bank to compensate for wind drift. To begin, select a road, fence, railroad, or section line which lies perpendicular to the wind and is long enough for a series of turns. Approach the road on a downwind heading at an altitude between 600 and 1,000 feet AGL. When you're directly over the road, begin your turn. At the entry point, your ground speed is high, so the bank angle is steep. As the turn continues, your ground speed gradually slows. This requires a decrease in the bank angle to maintain a constant radius. As you approach the road, the bank angle continues to decrease until you are in straight and level flight over the road. Begin a turn in the opposite direction without delay. Since the ground speed is low, the initial bank is shallow. In the second half of the S-turn, the airplane is turning from an upwind to a downwind heading. Ground speed increases as you progress, so you'll need to increase the bank angle to maintain a constant radius. The steepest bank occurs as you near the 180-degree point. Once again, you should be in level flight when you're directly over and perpendicular to the road. If the maneuver will continue, immediately roll into the next turn. In turns around a point, you'll fly a constant radius circle around a prominent reference point on the ground. You'll need to adjust the bank angle throughout the maneuver to compensate for wind drift. The point you select should be easy to distinguish, yet small enough to present a precise reference. Like most ground reference maneuvers, the entry is flown on a downwind heading between 600 and 1,000 feet AGL. You should fly to one side of the reference point at the distance you want to maintain throughout the turn. When you're opposite the reference point, roll into the initial bank at a fairly rapid rate. Since you're flying downwind, the ground speed is high and the angle of bank is at the steepest point in the maneuver. During the first half of the turn, the bank angle is gradually reduced as your ground speed decreases. This allows you to maintain a constant distance from the reference point. As you reach the upwind side of the maneuver, the ground speed is low and the angle of bank is at its shallowest point. Your ground speed begins to increase as you continue toward the downwind side of the maneuver. This requires a gradual increase in the bank angle to maintain a constant radius. You may need to fly around the point several times to get a good feel for the wind, varying bank angles, and the proper distance from the reference point. It is also a good idea to practice turns to the right as well as turns to the left.